Hey guys, I just want to make a video of how to build a Franken motor. This will be a two-part video. This is like tuning in. This is real in-depth stuff, so this is going to be a lengthy video. This will be two-part. This first part, we're going to go over how to shim the magnets to the armature, and then we're going to go over in the next video how to shim the armature. So I got my Franken armature here. Let me find this where it is. Wait, oh, that's the one that broke. 32 TPA armature right here. I got it labeled. Pulled this out of a Coyote motor, and Coyote motors are the gray cans. Actually, let me get one real quick, and I'll show you. Okay, so this is a small bag of one of the bags of motors I have. I got several, but this is a Coyote armature, and it's stuffed in here, but well, this is a Coyote motor. As you can see, it's that motor with the gray can. It's got all the Chinese or Japanese writing on it, probably Chinese, but it's got all that writing on it, and it's made by a company called Coyote or Chioli. It's spelled C-H-A-O-L-I, and they make motors with very high TPA. The reason why people will like these or want to build Franken torques is because 32 TPA motors are extremely torquey. That's all they do. They can pull a load really strong. So a lot of people and a lot of high-speed techs and a lot of DMR techs, or just techs in general, use them because they're A, extremely efficient, and B, are extremely torquey. And if you are familiar with motors and concepts in like physics and stuff like that, you'll know that torque translates to speed very easily, but speed doesn't like to translate to torque. It's just not efficient. Well, this torque, when paired with something like a DSG, or when paired with 10-to-1 gears, or even 13-to-1 gears, you'll get an incredibly fast trigger response, yet a good speed and have high efficiency, basically. This is a DSG gear, and if I built a 10-to-1 DSG out of this, like I put a 10-to-1 step and bevel gear in this with a combo of a Franken torque motor, basically I would get 48 to 50 rounds a second with some incredible trigger response and efficiency. And basically I could pull any spring. I could pull a Promi MS210 spring, which is the highest manufactured spring out there for airsoft guns. But yeah, that's just why people like to build Franken torques. They're really fast as far as trigger response goes, extremely torquey, and they can do basically anything except, extremely high speed builds like 60 RPS plus. And even then, Miyake, a tech, and I could have butchered his name, built a 10-to-1 DSG and ran it on a 14.8 volt LiPo and got 63 rounds a second. So that's just a cool thing about Franken torques. And if you want to build one, this is the video for you. Okay, so I got my Matrix 3000 Magnum motor, and I want to build a Franken torque out of it. So I got my arm, I got my motor. So what I need the tools to take it apart. So I'm going to do that real quick. This is not a video on how to take apart a motor. You're going to have to go somewhere else to find that. I know Valley River Arms made a video on how to take apart Sistema style motors, which, if I remember correctly, are reminiscent of Matrix motors. So you can go watch that video and figure out how to take it apart and go from there. Okay, so got to take an Allen key to it. First thing, I'm going to take an Allen key and remove the Allen screws. And this type of motor is very easy to Franken torque because, or very easy to tune, that is. So we're going to do this one as an example. Let's take a tiny screwdriver and remove the brush springs. Okay. Well, that brush is history. I'll have to put a new one in. Alright, let me clean up a bit. I don't like a messy workplace. Okay, so I got that off, and now I'm just going to pull off my end belt. Well, actually, wait, I forgot to see that it was taped on. Hold on. I use tape around my motors sometimes to stabilize them or shim them within the pistol grip. It just makes them quieter and they don't move around, and the shimming is more perfected. So, got my end belt off. I'm going to remove the clamp in here. And I apologize if I have interruptions in this video. I'll try to edit them out, but I don't have any real editing software, so I'm sorry if that happens. Okay, so I'm gonna take the tower off, and I'm gonna push my armature out. Okay, so this is a regular armature. It comes in like torque motors, and it's around 16 TPA. That's a good TPA if you're gonna run like a regular DSG, just like a simple 18-to-1 DSG or 20-to-1 DSG. And it's good for high-speed single sector gear builds. It's fast, it's pretty torquey, and it gets you the speed you want. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take off these plastic shims on it. Now we're going to set them off to the side. And if you have a messy desk like I do and you have metal shims everywhere, separate the plastic from the metal. There's a reason why plastic shims are used instead of metal shims inside of a motor, and we'll get to explaining that. But you might be able to figure it out just by thinking, and it's pretty obvious as to why. So. And you might want to have a knife handy, kind of pry up the plastic on it. There we go. Sometimes they're glued on, but riveting them won't hurt. There's no reason for them to be glued on. Like that one was glued on for some reason. Okay, so I got all the plastic shims off this motor shaft, so I'm going to set it aside. And sometimes I label these, but it's the only unlabeled one in my bag right now, so I'm just going to stick it in and I'll label it later. Okay, so what you should have is your can. It's just completely empty right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the magnets. Now removing the magnets can be a little difficult. Hopefully these are not glued or epoxied in. That would be terrible, because then I couldn't get them out on camera. But I don't think they are, so let's go to it. Okay, so what you do is inside this can, maybe I'll get a better flashlight in here, or a better light angle. Okay, with inside this can there are little springs, like little I'm gonna describe it. Hold on. There are little springs in here that they're like a U. The springs are like a U, and they fit in there, and then they clamp together, and they put pressure on the magnets and hold them in. So we got to remove those springs, and that you just got to figure out your own little trick on that. I just come from the back and just kind of shove them up. If they'll come up, jeez. These magnets are dirty too, we'll clean them up. Maybe I'll need a strong one. These are being oh, there it goes, thankfully. And these are really fun to put back in too. These magnets are so strong that it just doesn't want to come out. Oh, they're glued in. That was why. Okay. Well, I'm not gonna glue them back in. I've never done it. I've ran across this problem before where they are glued in, but I see no problem in just installing them raw without glue, so we're not gonna put glue in. I can get it out. It's really stuck in there with the magnets. There we go. See, it looks just like that. Kind of more like a V and less than a U, but oh well. They're a U when they're in there, so you know. Okay, so now I get the other one out. And like I said, there's no real trick to it. You just gotta figure out your own little way. But work at it, and don't be afraid to just kind of push around in there. Nothing you can really break in here. Unless you get really lucky. Sweet, that one's out too. And yeah, those were glued in. What in the world? That's weird. Normally they're not glued in. Oh well. Just make my video harder on me. Okay, sweet. Okay. And the magnets are probably glued in, and that would suck. But anyway, so we just cut the springs out, and we're gonna get the magnets out now. Oh, they're glued in. Now, if they're glued in, you need to take a sharp flathead like this and kind of get behind it, kind of pry it out, or you can get a really sharp knife and do it. I'm gonna see if this will work. Yep, that worked. Sweet. Gosh, these are really strong magnets. Matrix magnets are probably the second strongest magnets out there for Franken or for motors in general. They're just really powerful. So gotta get behind it again. Yeah, those are really powerful. Okay, those are powerful. Now, when you have these magnets out like this, notice it's kind of like a C. But anyway, set it on something like that, and just, gosh, that's powerful. Let's set it on something and kind of just set it off to the side, so when you pull out the other magnet, they don't clamp together. Now, once that has happened to me when they've snapped in half. That doesn't normally happen with these thick magnets, but with magnets out of an ICS can like this one, they're thinner, but they're just still pretty strong. So when they smack together, they don't have as much, as much behind them to kind of absorb that punch, and they actually snap together. I might still have them laying around, but I think they're downstairs on my refrigerator, holding up papers and stuff. But because that's what magnets are for. So I'll get this next one out, and we'll move on. Oh wait, I had to break the glue off this one first. Man, I've never seen magnets glued in this tight. Okay, we got both the magnets out. Okay, like I said, be careful with them when you stick them together, but I'm going to go ahead and slowly put them together. Okay, so my magnets are pretty dirty, so I'm going to use something to clean it up. I don't have anything. Dang it. Oh, I do. Okay, so I'm going to use this and just clean up the magnets. And since magnets, they might have this metal dust on them and stuff of such, it's kind of difficult to kind of wash them like I normally would do. If, I don't wash magnets, but when I clean stuff like this, I just wash it off and heat it up, kind of like with a hairdryer, and clean it up like that, like I do gearboxes. But we're not going to do that. We're going to use just a cloth, and we're going to clean them up. So just take a cloth to it and wipe off all the grease and nasty stuff off the magnets. If there's metal on it, you do need to get those off. You don't want them flinging around in the armature, and that will break any armature. That'll break a 32 TPA armature. Just because it has a lot of windings on it doesn't mean it's necessarily strong to physical abuse like that. So be careful. And if you're going to build a motor and spend some time doing it, might as well do it right. So that's a good one, nice and clean. Let's do the next one. Oh, there they go. Thankfully they didn't break. Okay, so clean off the next one, just wipe it down. This is actually a pillowcase bag where I bought pillowcases in. But I saw the bag, I was like, oh, I'll use it for teching. You're an airsoft tech when. Okay, this is hard to clean. Okay, clean enough. So I'm going to stick these two right here. We're not going to use them for just a second. I'm going to explain what we're doing next. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take some of this metal aluminum tape, and we're going to use it to put on the back of the magnets. Now what this does is this presses them forward more, and it gets them closer to the armature. Now the closer they are, the better, because the less, I don't know what word to use there, but okay, so you know how when you have a magnet and it's really strong up close, when you pull it further away it loses its strength. That's the same concept. If they're as close as they can get, if they're absolutely as close as they can get to that armature, they're going to be stronger than if they were further away. Now the old Coyote neodymium motors that Brill used to sell, those had the magnets really far away from the armatures, and they were really inefficient in that way. And they used magnets reminiscent to ICS magnets. They were just really thin and weak, and they weren't shaped to the armature, kind of like Lonex motors are. Like Lonex magnets, they're not shaped to the armature well, but they're strong. But they're just not shaped well, so they don't translate that torque better, that magnetism better. So what we're going to do is we're going to make it to where they're as close to the armature as possible. So what you do with that, you use some metal tape. This metal tape is very, very thin. It's kind of like, it's like 0.1 millimeters thick or something. So we can adjust in increments of that. And we'll test it by putting a piece of tape on the magnet, inserting it, and then putting the motor back together, which is the armature and the end bell, and spinning it. And the spin, we'll see if it's hitting anything and if it's scraping up against magnets. So we'll get to it. I don't expect we're going to have to shim these magnets much, so it shouldn't take that long. But let's do it. In the next part of this shimming, working on motors video, we'll discuss shimming the armature, similar to how you shim a gear, but a little different. So, and another reason I'm making this video is because there's none on YouTube, and there aren't really any on the internet. So I figured I'd show everybody how I do it, and if anybody has any objections, they can say them. Okay, so we're just going to take this and cut it. I want nice and neat cuts, straight cuts. So don't try to mess up. I mean, if you mess up, you got plenty of tape, more than likely, so go at it. Okay, so this is our first magnet. What we're going to do is we're going to put it on here. We're going to just throw it around and make sure it's nice and even, though. I use throw loosely, so. Okie dokie. We have that done. Oh, we got a curl there. Let's pull that out. You have a little air bubble, you gotta get it out. Alrighty, so now we got this set up. We got too much tape though, so we're gonna cut it off. Alright, okay, we have the top taken care of. And make sure you count how many you do. I do that just to kind of make sure that, oh, I have an X amount of tape on this one, and I have an X amount on this one, so. Goodness. Okay, so we got our tape on it. You can see the tape. There's the magnet. We're going to put it back in. So we'll just throw it in. You don't need to install these clamps here. Those will be fine without it. So let's go ahead and drop it in. But be very careful. You don't want to mess up your tape. You don't want it to curl up. You don't want to do stuff like that. So there we go. That's in. Okay, so let's do the other magnet. And you have to test each time. You have to make sure it's right. Okay, hopefully I can get this cut a little straighter. The last one wasn't so straight of a cut. And if you guys ever want a guide made on anything, airsoft related that is, I'm not going to make a guide on how to be successful in life because, you know, it's not my field of expertise really. Of course, I'm having a happy life, but I'm not done with my life yet. So anyway, just if you guys want a guide made, anything really except shimming, because that just takes forever, and I'm going to make one soon, but it's going to be some time. So I'm just going to get a nicer camera before I move on to that. I don't feel like I can do it with a GoPro. So anyway, so we got that magnet, and it's nice and even on there. Did the same thing we did to the next one, so we're going to put it back in. Wait, let's make sure the tape doesn't just furl out and mess up when we start it back in. Alrighty. Good, nice and in there. Wait a second. Crap. 1 second, I think I messed up this tape, but yeah, I did. Okay, So, even on camera, I'm catching myself. Crap. Gotta do it right, or don't do it at all. God, that is in there. Goodness. Alright, well, let's see here. About half battery life on my camera now. As you can see, these are extraordinarily strong magnets, even I'm having trouble with them. They just like to stick on everything. But that's okay. We'll figure it out. Okay, sweet. I'm gonna pry it out now. Alright, there she is. Alright, as you can see, my tape got messed up on the back, and I'm not gonna go back and fix it, so I want to fix it on camera. So, we're gonna do it right. So if this happens to you, which it might, hopefully it doesn't though, hopefully you have better luck than I do. Maybe your hand's a little nicer than mine and just a bit more careful, but we're going to do it right, and don't do it at all. So, make sure you get all your tape off, because if you don't, you'll have parts where the tape sticks out more, and some parts where it won't, so you get all the tape off. And this tape isn't magnetic, so it's just fine the way it is. Alrighty, let's get a piece of tape. I forgot how to use my scissors. Gosh, those are really strong. Alright, let's cut another piece of tape. Remember, nice and straight cuts. Don't want anything, you know, not nice and even and straight. All right, that's a good one. All right, that's a good one. Now we're gonna make sure this one doesn't get messed up though. So we don't want that to happen again. There we go, that's a good one. Yep, that's a good one. Okay, so we got both of our magnets in there. They both have one piece of tape on them. So we're gonna go back and insert the armature. We're gonna test it out now. See where we're at. That is very close. I actually don't think I can get any closer. Okay, so we're gonna put in this clamp here. And I think it's going to have a problem with bumping into things. Okay, well, let's take that out. I'm gonna take a buttload of shims off the bottom. Gosh, that's probably why. Okay, so there's no shims on the bottom, but oh well. This is an armature shimming video. This is a magnet shimming video. Alrighty, that ought to do it. Alright, cool. Coolio. That's on there. And that's on there. Okay, so now we're gonna do. Oh, there it is. Already hit the jackpot. That's interesting. Okay, so I got a no opinion. Oh, I need a D type. I thought it was no type. D type it is. Alright, so I got my 32 TPA Coyote armature in here, and I have my matrix magnets. Now listen to this. See that scraping in there? They're shimmed too tightly. Now, normally you can put some electrical tape in there and it shims it closely, but thankfully and interestingly enough, this matrix magnum can is actually perfectly shimmed to the magnets stock. That's scraping, that's bad. That's exactly what you don't want to look for when you're shimming a motor magnets, that is. Okay, so this was a pretty interesting video. I expected that not to happen.